Welcome back to another episode here on the Hard Hustle Podcast. It never gets old. We have always some tremendous leaders throughout the United States that are really changing the perspective of their own communities. Sometimes you don't know what you don't know, and the resources are right there for you. So today we have Miss Cara, like Sarah, that's how I got to remember it, in the building. Miss Cara, where you in from? Where in the United States are you from?
Yeah, I'm coming from the San Francisco Bay Area. Happy to be here
Okay.
today. Thanks.
Born and raised?
No, I am from the East Coast.
East Coast, where?
Yeah, in central New York. So put a pin in the middle of the state, and that's where I'm from.
Okay. So how were you feeling about New York's winning? Were you excited about that, or did you not care? You don't watch basketball,
Yeah,
or
I mean, my family loves basketball. They were super excited.
could care less?
Yeah, I mean, yay, glad for them. But yeah.
How long have you been in San Francisco now?
So it's been about 25 years.
So you love San Francisco.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't live in San Francisco. I live in the Bay Area, but I've been I've been here in the Bay Area for about 25 years.
So you must love it.
I do. I love it.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
great.
25 years, you're not
It's
going nowhere.
no, no.
Raise your kids there, right? That's true,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like you
My
said, your
kids
kids
are
are.
born and raised, and we've thought about leaving, but always there's just no place like it. So.
Yeah, and then also this organization that you're a part of. What is the organization that you're representing today?
So I work for the Peninsula College Fund. We are a college success program for first gen low income students that are coming from the San Francisco Bay Area.
What brought you into that lane of one nonprofits where there's not a lot of money to be made, but there is that purpose, there is that passion that people have to, and that's usually why they stay in these nonprofit sectors. What brought you to it? What keeps you there?
Yeah, so I'm actually first gen and low income student myself. So when I was going to
Love it.
college, certainly no expectation in my family that I would go to college. And so the mission to me is just so vitally important. I think everybody deserves that opportunity. And I'm really dedicated and passionate about making sure that everyone has access and to college and then can be successful while they're there.
Love it. You talking about your first gen student. How far did you go on your college trip?
Yeah. So I got my undergrad. I started out at a school that I wasn't super happy to be at, but I got a full ride there and just always felt like, okay, I can do more. I can do more. So I transferred and it was my dream school. I was so happy to be there, but completely felt like an outsider, had crazy, almost crippling imposter syndrome while I was
Hmm.
there. It took me most of my college career to get over it. But yeah, I mean, it was truly life altering and truly transformative.
Hmm. Do you think it was difficult just due to life happening, life what it was prior to then, really trying to find yourself in a new environment? Is that what it was?
There's so many things. And you'll hear echoes of this, when we're talking about the students that I'm serving, but there's so many things. I mean, it was not only the financial strain of going to
Hmm.
college and not really having the funds to do that, right? I would walk into the bookstore to buy my books and I would be panicked because it was books or rent, books or food. So that kind of, just anxiety hits you really hard when you're a low income student. But also I think not understanding what college was all about and not understanding what the resources were that were available or were not available to me, um, and wishing that there were better structures in place. These were all things that I struggled with, right? I didn't want to
Hmm.
raise my hand because I didn't want to be snuffed out as like, oh, you don't belong here. And that's what I was so afraid people would see when they heard me talk or heard me respond. I thought that they could see my insecurities.
Yeah.
So it was, yeah, it was just hard. It was hard being around among people who deserved to be there, understood they should be there, held themselves with pride and had this just belief system ingrained in them from very young ages that I never had. So
Hmm.
I felt like I had to fight for it, fight for my own like sense of belonging while I
Hmm.
was there.
How long have you been doing this now?
So I've been with the Peninsula College Fund for about 6 years, going on 6 years. I think though, if I think about, my trajectory, I have always been interested in working towards education and sort of helping people and helping, build the systems for college access or just education access in general.
What were you doing prior to getting to this organization? Still in the
Uh,
nonprofit?
I mean, lots of things. I worked in ed tech when I came out of college, was working in some startups, and really exciting time to be, working and living. But then I took a pretty long career pause to raise my family. That was always something that was super important to me because I had grown up in a single family household. My
Yeah,
mom
yeah.
worked multiple jobs and really couldn't give me the things that I had wanted, right? To show up for my sporting events and to be, there for my chorus concerts and things like that. And so I always felt like, okay, this is what I'm going to do for my kids. So I took that pause. So happy
Mhm.
I did it.
How many
But
years? How many years? How many did you pause
I'm a
for?
little embarrassed to admit it was more than almost 20 years. I took a
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't think that you should be, Kara, and I'll tell you why. If anything, I need to have you talk to my wife. My wife's now been doing this for 5 years, and, she just talks about how hard it is, and I would say that I'm very blessed that I get to do this from home, and I've created, the opportunity for us to even be able to do this. Because very similar to you, my mom has 7 kids, and we didn't have a lot, and when you talk about not showing up, that's how I felt. I felt that, why didn't she show up to chorus? I was a chorus kid. Why didn't she show up to these things and all? And now as an adult realizing she didn't have the time. She had to work 2 jobs. It was just 7 different kids. How the heck do you show up everywhere, all the time? So being able to live the life, and when my wife came to me, I'll tell you, she says, "Hey, I just want to be able to do this for a year and stay at home." And I've been an entrepreneur my whole life, but at that moment I was partial into corporate and then partial into my own thing, but I was broke. And I told her when she told me that, I'm like, okay, like sure. But in my mind, I'm like, how do we make this happen? We left it in God's hands. God has really taken care of us. We have now 2 kids, a 2 and a 5. She's been at home. She's also homeschooling the kids as well. So she's really putting in a lot of work. Different times, right? To just kind of send your kids anywhere and everywhere, what's happening at this level. And so I respect you, and you should never feel embarrassed because I always say to her, the sacrifice that you guys make, and I can imagine your kids are probably showcasing this now, but your kids will appreciate it, and I appreciate you doing that. It is not an easy task. It is on 24/7, right? You're on 24/7.
Truly.
So
Truly.
don't feel embarrassed. I actually praise people like you that were willing to sacrifice your career, your life to make sure that you were able to give to your kids something you didn't experience. And I think that's huge. So, um, anyway, just wanted to give your flowers on that. Kudos to you.
Thank
Kudos.
you. It wasn't easy. There were a lot of tough times, right? Staying home is not it is a job, but you're just not being rewarded and paid for it like you would if you were out working. So there was a lot of, my own, again, insecurities that I had to sort of get over. Just quick story, I once went to this networking event, probably 10, maybe 15 years into being a stay-at-home parent, when I was starting to think about, what am I going to do now that I'm thinking about going back to work. And I remember I met this really wonderful woman who asked me, "So what do you do?" And, that question is always like, oh, it just kind of hurts right there when you have to say, well, I'm right now, I'm pausing my career so I can raise my family. And I remember she said, just as long as it's not for longer than you were working. And I did that math, that mental math, and I was like, well, kind of is longer than I've been working, but that's okay. You learn along the way that there are a lot of transferable skills. And so as long as you are doing things that mean something to you, and I was volunteering, I had joined several boards. I think those are easily transferable skills. And hopefully your wife can find things that she cares about too that mean something to her, especially as the kids get older. And she can translate them into really anything she wants.
Yeah, we've been really battling on getting her out the house. Go find something that you could commit to, because a lot of the times she doesn't even get out the house, right? Like you get away from the kids maybe 30 minutes, you know, if that. And I had a friend recently told me that's also a mom, and she says, but also working. She says, Efrain, I had breakfast by myself on my birthday. That's all I wanted. And I just sat there and smiled to myself because realizing I haven't had breakfast by myself in a very long time without someone picking up my plate. And at that moment, it really made me think about my wife and her not having that space, right? She doesn't go to a part time job. She doesn't like, so we're really trying to find that space for her to be able to just get away for a little bit. You know, the mental could imagine was very a lot for you. Just mentioned all these different feelings that you may have felt throughout it, and some of them were just you, right? It kind of almost in sometimes in your own way, but it was also what life was bringing to you at that moment. Seeing things around you, probably having friends that were doing all these things, and you're like, I would say, was it hard for you? Because my wife says it's always hard to know that I've given everything up. You know, that financial. You know, I got to kind of go back to my husband and says, "Hey, can you kind of load me back up?"
Right.
Was that hard?
Yeah. I mean, it was certainly hard. And it's definitely a negotiation, right? In your marriage, your relationship, you're always constantly trying to figure out like, how can I get what I need? How can I make sure he gets what he needs and the kids get what they need? So yeah, it's hard. It's a negotiation. You're always navigating it.
I love it. So, what do you think? You talked about being a stay-at-home mom and everything you learned. I think there was a lot to learn. Patience. There's a lot of leadership qualities that were probably taught within that or learned within that. What is your kids teaching you when it comes to leadership that you feel that you're now being able to utilize in what you're doing today?
Yeah, I mean, patience, obviously. I also think there's a quality that you get from being just a parent in general, right? About um, you learn that there's wisdom in your life experience, and there's your kids don't want to hear it. They'll at a certain point, they'll tell you like, "Oh, you don't know anything, mom," or "You don't know
Oh
anything, dad."
man,
Right? But the truth is you do. The truth is you've gained all this experience and all this knowledge, and you have so much to give. And that's really kind of where I landed when I ended up going back to work. I just felt like, okay, I actually do have a lot to contribute. I am really smart. I put myself through college. I did it without any support, from my financial support from my family. I did it. And that is one of the things that I'm most proud of in my life. And so I know that I can go back to work, or I know that I can like I've learned these things from my kids, and I'm able to take that and translate that and pivot and do something really great with these next, this next phase of my life. So
I I'm just I'm proud of you too, to be quite frank. You know, like we've the second time talking, but I think I told you that I'm adopted. So when I think about my own story, um, you could easily gave up and you didn't. You know what I mean? Like how cool is that your kids will realize mom never gave up. And now when they get to become parents and come adults, I think that's when it comes back to you realizing like, oh, mom really put in that work. So yeah, I am very proud. And when I look at people, women especially because of my own experiences, that could have gave up when life was getting hard and continued. And like you said, here I am now. You're obviously a leader in this organization and really painting a different picture for those that thought they'd never had the opportunity. What does it look like for those individuals that are seeking opportunity? Like, is it they're going to a website? Are you guys into the schools? Like, how does this all kind of come together?
yeah, so we reach students in a variety of ways. So we come to them right when they're graduating from high school, so as seniors in high school. And we're going into the high schools. We're sharing out about our program. We're reaching out to other kind of college access programs. Boys and Girls Club is one that we have great relationships with. Things like that, where students are just trying to get through high school. Maybe they get some college advising services, and we're really talking to those college advisors about what we do so they can share our program with students who might fit our criteria.
Love it. And how many kids are you guys helping and assisting throughout a year, school year?
So it will vary based on funding, which is kind of hard to accept, but that's just the reality of the work we do. This year we accepted 30 students, um, but just to put it in perspective, we had over 200 applications for the program, that were completed, and there were more than 600 applications that were started. So the need is there. The need is very, very strong, but we can only accept a certain number of students. So that's always one of the challenges that we face.
These 30 students that you said got through and awarded, I'm guessing, is it scholarships? Is it full rides? Like, what does it actually look like?
Yeah, so we give them a renewable scholarship. It's not enough. I'll tell you that. It's not very much money, but it is a little bit that we hope helps fill some of their gap. Um, and then they'll get paired with a mentor. They will get college and career success training, and then they will also get support to land an internship, which is part of what we think will help them get a job after college.
Yeah. How long is this? How old is the organization?
Yeah, we just turned 20. We just
Okay.
had our 20th anniversary.
Okay. Still young. Still
Yeah.
young, and yeah, yeah. Still a lot of room to grow. Um, when you talked about not enough dollars, is it because what's happening at the level of just government and funding, or are you guys? Is that what solely you guys were? I guess how you're receiving your funds? Are you guys pivoting now to say, hey, we got to get more into the community for those maybe alumni and all that? Like, where are you guys on that?
Yeah, so we don't get any funding. We don't get any federal funding, which certainly that's helped us in the time period that we're in right now.
Hmm.
However, a lot of our funders, um, we do have some institutional funders, some big family foundations, and they really had to sort of adjust their priorities because they didn't want to get targeted, right? So we've had to just toe this very careful line between how we talk about what we do, especially because we serve, the minority or the majority of the students we serve are coming from um, diverse backgrounds, and so we just have to be so careful about how we talk about it and what we are doing. But most of our funding is coming from individuals, and it's coming from those large family foundations, those institutional foundations.
Love it. And this is only for students in the Bay Area.
Yeah, so we're serving 2 counties. Students are coming, from 2 counties in the Bay Area, but they could be going to college anywhere. So we have students across the country, going to college. We got students going to HBCs. We've got students going to, elite private schools on the East Coast. It just will vary depending on kind of how they've been advised, and where they've gotten accepted and where they can afford to go to college too.
Got it. And how I'm guessing, if I go to the website, is there more information for those that are probably just listening, whether video or audio? Can I go on the website and find a lot of this stuff on the website? Is that
You
how
can.
kind of communication happens?
Yeah, definitely you can. But a lot of our recruiting for the students actually just happens at the time when we're recruiting those students. So we recruit in the fall and the early spring, for the upcoming year. And so we will make those announcements and open up our application at that time. And that's when you'll really see all that information. It's on our website, but a link
Mm.
to apply would not be available until
What does the work look like in between, someone, as you mentioned, opening up enrollment, and then I'm guessing you guys may pass out these applications at the end of the school year? Is that correct?
Yeah, well, they will apply, starting in November through February. We have a pretty rigorous application process. They will apply, we'll review their application to make sure that they meet the criteria. Primarily, we're looking for a GPA, a certain GPA. We're looking for the fact that they're low income, so we have to verify their income. Um, and then they have to be headed to college, and it can be a 4-year or a 2-year college. Um but then they get interviewed. So we bring in volunteers from the community to read the applications, help us score the applications, right? Because we're a small team. We can't do that for 200 students. So we bring in volunteers. A lot of our core supporters will do this over and over and over again because they love this is, just a really meaningful way to contribute. And then we will accept our students in April, May. And then we just had a big weekend of events for our incoming students and our outgoing seniors who just graduated this past weekend. We just did a ton of training for the incoming students to sort of get them prepared, community building. And then for our outgoing students, we did a big graduation ceremony where they get a special gift and we celebrate them with our community and volunteers.
How many students are coming in? How many students are getting out coming out?
Yeah. So we just graduated our largest class. Between May and June, there were over 50 students who graduated from college, which is huge. We happened to have a really great funding year that year, so we were able to accept a lot of students. But the reality is that only 21% of students nationally who are first gen will graduate from college within 6 years. So that's a really low, like staggeringly low percentage of students who are graduating. So for us, our rate, we graduate about 84% of students within 6 years. So we're really proud of that because it's not just about the dollars that we can give them. It really is about that support that we're providing them that helps keep them in college. But incoming class, we have about 30 students. So again, that's just based on the funding that we had this
Mhm.
particular year and how many students we could accept.
Are you guys tapping into those alumni groups? I guess to kind of come back, whether volunteer or say, hey, maybe provide that legacy scholarship. I know me being a part of the high school, we're always looking for those past people. It's like, you guys become, because organizations like yourself would help these kids really see past their own backyards, right? And allow them to know what's kind of out there. That it's always cool to have those stories come back, but also to give back. Are you guys tapping into that?
Definitely. We have a large and growing alumni network of students who, former students who've graduated and now feel like they can contribute. So we tap into them in a variety of ways. Certainly, they become volunteers for our program and they read applications and they score interviews and they interview students. They also become mentors. So for us, a mentor is a really big commitment. It's we ask a mentor to volunteer and work with a student throughout
Hmm.
undergrad. And like I said, that could be for 6 years. I have a student who's graduating. She's going on her ninth year. That takes a lot of patience and
Yeah.
dedications and persistence to stick with it for that long. So a lot of our alumni are coming back and supporting our students as mentors. And then, of course, certainly we're asking them to contribute financially because we think, it's a really meaningful way. And we know that from hearing from them, we know that they want to do this. They want to support us because they know how much we supported them. Um, and that's one of the ways I think, you know, we continue to grow and evolve is by tapping into this network of alumni because they have ideas too about how should we be serving the students. They were there, they did it, they know what goes on,
Yeah.
and so it's really important for us to bring them onto our board, and to stay connected to them, have them join our committees, so that they can contribute in meaningful ways.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, the data, just all the data that you're talking about kind of shows why this is so important, why funding is so important. Really use this almost every podcast, but it's so true. Really fertilizing the future. Because, one of the stories that I heard, Kara, was I had a mom that was also a first gen student go to school. Her parents obviously just didn't have the funds to go to school themselves. They were, living in poverty, all these different things. But as that daughter went on to school, mom realized it's possible. Mom is now at her bachelor's degree at 60 years old and wanting to go for her master's. Not that she needed it in life, but that's what fertilizing the future looks like. You don't just impact that one person, you impact their family, you impact their kids. So it is really cool on what you're doing, but also what you're doing for others and that what others are doing for others. It's such a trickle effect. So pretty cool that 20 years in, you guys clearly have a huge graduating class of alumni and data that you could really start to tap into. So you mentioned how government funding is not where our scope is at. It's more of help getting those people that were already a part of the system, and how do we utilize that talent? Because there is a lot of talent in those
Yeah,
people.
a lot.
You yourself, someone that didn't have much, but your talent now was compared to who you used to be. And I think that you had a lot of talent, just how getting it out of us per se. But yeah, man, kudos to you. How do you communicate a lot of these things? In a space right now where innovation is everything, and a lot of conversation happening on your phone, how are we communicating to alumni? How are we communicating to those that are in the system receiving those scholarships?
Yeah, I mean, that's a big challenge, right? I've heard some of your previous guests who've talked about in the higher ed space, right? And
Hmm.
it's all about engagement. And I think that's true for us as well. We rely on texting a lot. It's just the platform, the students text, that's how they communicate with one another, and that's how we have to communicate with them. So we get
Love it.
really good at keep like making very short, concise messages, right? Yes, no, texts. Um, but in addition to that, we are really good about sending out. I think the key is that we have to, when we send out information, it has to be really impactful. So we have a newsletter that we send out to our current students about with internship opportunities, and we have a tremendously high click rate for that newsletter because they know that these are opportunities that they have a good shot of getting,
Hmm.
because either there are connections that we've made with local organizations or local businesses, or they're being offered by some of our network. And that's one of the beautiful things about the volunteer kind of trajectory that we have is they can offer these opportunities for students. So I think it just has to be really impactful for them. If we're going to get them to engage with us, then we need to make sure that it actually matters.
Yeah.
And that's what we do.
Because, attention span is crazy nowadays.
There is no.
My co-host, he was showing me something, and within the first, like, 15 seconds, I'm sitting here like, it's cringe, right? It was just so much fluff. And I'm watching a video, and because I do a lot of content, I realized I can make a minute video, and my demographics is somewhere between like 22 to 45. The average watch time on a minute video would be somewhere between 17 seconds to 22 seconds. And I always fight like, damn, how do I get them to watch more of this video? You got to be really good at the storytelling aspect of it and give them something that they care about. Because man, our phones, social media, like there's so much people or things that are trying to grab your attention. How do you break through the noise? So it looks like you guys are really doing it. And at least SMS, that's actually the way that we meet people are where they're at. Nowadays, who's really taking their email? Are you texting or are you emailing? Which one are you doing first?
So for me personally,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm emailing, but the text works probably is more effective for sure.
I have one of my board members, and I don't understand why he does this to me. He would always email me like it's a text message. And then I'm like, why don't you just text me? Because now I'm gonna forget to email you back, or and I would email him the same way that I'm texting. And sometimes he'll email me and I'll text him like, "Sir, just text me. Like, what are you emailing me for?"
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely different times, right? Of how we communicate with people, but meeting people where they're at is so important. So I love that you guys kind of got into that space. As we start wrapping up, what do you want to see for this organization? You clearly you have a passion for this. There's a lot of hard work you've put in. What do you want to see by the time that you decide to kind of hang it all up?
It's a great question. There's so many things that I feel like we don't have, right? We're a resource constrained environment. We are constantly trying to just throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks. What I would love to see is a having a really strong understanding of what the students are facing and then being able to address those needs. Having the funding, right? Like we know that AI is here. We know that not only do students need to know how to navigate the world of AI to be successful in their post college careers, but they need to know how to use it just to be efficient and to be effective in the world, in their everyday life. And so I think for us, I'd love us to have just know how we are going to teach them to use AI, know how we are going to use AI so that we can address that with them. I'd love that. Um, I'd love to be able to provide I mental health services. There's so many like gaps in our programming that we just it's maybe whether it's mission creep
Yeah.
or what, like I would just love to be able to say here's all the comprehensive suite of services that we could provide for you, because we have
Hmm.
this funder who cares deeply about X, Y, or Z, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, those are some things for sure that I wish and hope that we get to a place where we
Are
can.
you using AI today?
Not well enough. We are,
Well,
but I think very minimally, and we definitely need to be using it more, to make impact.
it is. I think I told you I run a nonprofit for the school. It is, and everyone on my board is obviously probably in their 50s or 60s, and realizing that I have to teach this, but there's a lot of things to teach. There's the Google Drive aspect because they probably were in a school system and only use Teams. But I love that you said, "Hey, I understand that it's helpful. If someone is willing to teach me it, or give me those resources, looks like you're down to kind of learn it." But yeah, I didn't realize AI has really been around for a long time when we think about it. It's just now I think the word is being the sexy word has kind of been thrown around, but it is how do we use it? How do we put guardrails around it? How do we make this safe for our own teams, internal and external? And teach it at a different level. I'm actually very surprised that, at least in my district, and we have one of the biggest districts here in Florida, that they actually blocked this out of high schools. Because I just was speaking to a parent, and she's like, "Yeah, they had like a Spanish test, and their daughter said, 'Hey, mom, I use ChatGPT.'" So they're using it, but are we teaching them how to use it
Yeah,
correctly? And I
exactly.
think it's a disservice if we're blocking it out at the high school levels because people are going to go to college. I can imagine there's probably already curriculums around it in the college level. So what are we really doing to prepare them? And it looks like you guys are ahead of the game and says, how do we prepare these students that are going to college? We have to have those resources and have everything needed for them. Because if schools are not doing it at the high school level, they're going to have some tough, tough times at a college level. So kudos to you even thinking that far for sure. I can imagine your kids are using AI, right?
For sure,
Yeah.
1,000%. I mean, they're way more advanced at it than I am. I'm typing the basic questions, and they're using it as an agent to actually, like, create this idea of building expertise.
I love
Um,
it.
yeah,
I went to my mom's house and we showed her. We're trying to redo our backyard, so we took a picture and we says, "Hey, this is what we want." And we showed my mom that. She's like, "Oh my god!" And she just starting to like see like the how cool it is. The first time I asked her, "Hey, mom, using AI," and she's like, "What is that?" I'm like, "Oh my god!" And my mom's not that old, okay? And I'm like, "Ma, you can't." And she's in the healthcare industry, so it's like, are you shitting me? Like, what do you mean you don't know what this is? But there's some people that just not willing to learn it. But there's people that when they start to really learn it, I remember this one person, actually, she was so scared of using it. No, 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 no AI. I spent maybe 20 minutes with her. And at the end of it, she's like, I can't stop using it. So kudos to you. I do want to, as we start to really end this here, I am first gen student. However, I still got 2 classes left to get an associate, so I didn't finish. I am that guy. It's going to take a lot of years to do it. But
okay,
you're also a first gen student, and
yeah.
I think that is so cool for both of us to be at this side of the table and let people know that may not be they don't know it's possible, right? When I think of representation, it's not the color of our skin, but it's really the story that we tell and how we got here. So, can you just kind of leave us with some words of encouragement for those that maybe don't think it's possible to go and get a college degree, that maybe it's too expensive, all these different things? Can you leave us with that words of advice for those individuals?
Yeah, this is what I've learned well, over my lifetime, but really has come to, eh, means a lot to me in the last 6 years as I've worked with these students. There are many paths to success, and very few of them are a straight line. Um, I just know so many students who they need more than the 4 years. That's just not gonna be their path, or they need more than the 6 years. Again, a student is graduating in December in our program who's been going to school for 9 years, on and off, struggled financially, had lots of different challenges and hurdles thrown at her, and she's gonna do it. And she's so excited, and I'm so excited for her. We don't have any
Yes.
more funding we provide her, but she still will call. She still checks in. She still, gets the support and the resources that we can provide her. That to me, like that persistence and grit,
Hmm.
you don't get that by having things handed to you. You get that by sticking it out, by getting knocked down and pulling yourself up, right? Maybe her story that was told to her whole life was, you can't do this. This, you aren't good enough for this. You don't belong here. But she's going to prove everybody wrong. And I think that to me is what I think about every day. And I hope our students hear that from us and get that message as well.
I love it. I don't even know her, but I'm super excited and cheering for her. She seemed like the underdog and she's coming out on top. Been in those places where you have a chip on your shoulder because someone told you you couldn't. I was told by my high school counselor when I was in school, Efrain, go get a job because school is just not for you. And I always say she forgot to tell me the rest of my story because I've been able to be an entrepreneur. I've been able to travel the world on somebody else's dime. I've been able to do some cool stuff. So, yeah, shouts out to her for just never giving up. And shout out for you to meeting her at where she was at and pouring back into her. We're big believers here that one story one moment, one organization really changes somebody's life, you are the organization and you are part of the organization that is truly changing people's lives. So shout outs to you. You've been changing people's life for 20 years at home with your own kids. And now you're, and I also want to kind of go back there. Not only did you change your kids' lives, but I can imagine that they were also pouring back into their friends. They're going to pour back into their own kids. Like you are truly fertilizing the future. So, Kara, we thank you so much really for your time,
Yep.
for the resources that you've been able to provide for those that are listening that may not know that this exists, and hopes that we can continue to just expand what you guys are doing and provide more scholarships. This year was 30. I can't wait till you tell me, Ephraim, we did 100, right? Because it's definitely just got to keep persistence, got to stay patient, got to stay consistent.
Yep. I'd love that.
Kara, we thank you. We thank
Thank
you for just being you. My name's Ephraim. This is Kara. Make sure that you guys like, subscribe, and comment. We'll catch you on the next one. Later.